Yeah, this is a quickie review of Star Trek Lower Decks, Episode 1, Second Contact, the animated Star Trek. Ours first. Our fan film was last September, so almost a year ago. So yeah, this is as other people have already indicated, it's trying to be the Orville. It's really trying to be the Orville. And I'm not sure what the target audience necessarily is. But other than that, I mean, it's certainly kinetic and hyper and stuff, and it's clearly meant for older teens or something, who wouldn't know anything about the jokes that are being uttered in it. So the jokes are like meant for people who are over 50 and remember TNG quite well from when they were teenagers. But like, yeah, any new generation is going to be like, what's going on? So what they did is they basically made everyone really hyper, because they thought, well, if it's more like Rick and Morty and it's really hyper, then maybe they won't notice the jokes. But they kind of write over their own jokes. And yes, there is a character from Space-Time Eye in this called Bulmer. And I didn't tell them to put that in there, but they did. So they read Space-Time Eye, apparently. And he's basically of that race that's Mackenzie Calhoun from Star Trek Frontiers. New Frontiers from the book series. I didn't write that. That was Friedman. But yeah, so that's interesting that he's that species. It's the purple hair and the eyes and all that. And his friend is this super hyperactive character, kind of on a par with Kristen Libby, but she's acting more like she's the daughter of the captain than she is. Nepotism. It's a nepotism planet, and they go on a contact mission to a planet where the Starship Cerritos, California class, so they're acknowledging. It's basically the Ciliosaurus. It's basically what the ship is. Yeah, so the Cerritos, so it's the Chimera ship from Silly Trek, going on a mission to a planet, second contact mission, and they in 2380. So it's set before Chimera. Actually, it's set during Chimera Series 1. 81 was Series 1. Yeah, right after. So it's in that same universe as Series 1. And the uniforms are very similar to Chimera Series 1. Which would have been 2003 to 2005, roughly. Roughly, somewhere around there. And because the TNG era is set to approximately 278 years after, now that would mean that like 2020 would be 20, this part of 2020 would be just starting into 2397 in Star Trek, 2397. So yeah, just starting at the beginning of September, because their way they do the scale. Anyway, so this is about 17 years earlier than that. And Picard is 2399, and it's a little bit further on, even though that's confused too. I try to fix that in my Cillian versions. Anyway, so we have, but it doesn't have anything to do with this. Again, try to compare it to stuff parodies that I've done, which they have liberally borrowed from. But I see Eugene Roddenberry Jr. is in the credits, as well as McMahon, one of the Cillian people. There you go. But I did not write any episodes of Lower Decks, although if they want a TNG person, okay, here I am. I don't know what Prodigy is going to be about, Star Trek Prodigy. I can't say that it was bad. I mean, they had like an Orion and a Trill, and the command staff is silly, but you expect that. Yeah, and so not sure how far off it was. it's you know, I don't know what the target audience is. I'm guessing it's men, children that are in their 50s, because it certainly isn't anybody that isn't. It certainly isn't made for a new generation. It's not even remotely something they'd be into. So yeah, the they get slimed, and there's like creatures make them zombies, of course, because it's literally the plot of the Isolation 1 and 2 and Fontana Meets Clerk, or Fontana and Clerk's saga from Silly Trek, released only months ago on Amazon. And that's a plot in the final act of the 2396 story and the final act of the 2399 story. Both deal with the zombies. So, it's right there. So they've apparently affected them as well. But I'm sure it's a coincidence. Wink. Yeah. There's no official thing saying Kal Kat had anything to do with this. It's all right. It's not. I'm not going to be one of those haters and say, "Oh no, this thing is just totally silly. I can't get into it." Oh, no. It's what it is. It's kind of a jumbled mess, but it's not. It's not awful, because silly and slapstick. You know, I've done that kind of stuff for years, for over 35 years. Silly Trek. It's just like we've done stuff like that. I wouldn't have been surprised if they had a pie in the face instead of a giant Spider-Man sucking someone, licking them with spider talons. Ew, with the pig aliens and a giant spider and spider cow and them running around half naked. Yeah, it's clearly not for kids. It's clearly for adults. It's just weird. Yeah, there's a Alexi, yeah, it's odd. I can't say it. It's not bad. It's not great. It's just what it is. Hard to tell with the first 21 minutes of a pilot. Yeah, that's fine. I'm probably the target audience, and I was like, that's fine. Yeah, we'll see what we'll do later. But yeah, it's clearly copying the Orville. But they just changed some things around. There's a cyborg dude in it too. Yeah, so we have a cyborg who's, yeah, clearly visor built sort of from Silly Trek. We have a green girl. Actually, the green girl is the green girl from Star Trek Uncharted, the Gamelt story. Which basically acts like her. So yeah, they have some of this is Gamelt. I don't think he gave them permission. Some of it is, a little bit of it. One character, yeah, the green girl. Yeah, so, yeah. Somebody sold his idea, but I'm sure that it's not his. It's McMahon, somebody else. Yeah, yeah. Alan Smithy directed, and yeah, that's an old joke. By the way, Alan Smithy is when a director wants to part ways from a story, so he puts the name Alan Smithy on something. Anyway, that's my little brief review. Alan Smithy.